Hey guys, Ed here, and I am going to do a video response to Big Daddy Darth. Sorry, my mouth isn't working properly. Big Daddy Darth. He has a tag video up, and it is something to the effect of share a story from your gaming life. No, share a gaming life story. Now, my story is not going to be what he's looking for, I don't think, but it's because I don't have any good gaming life stories. If you want to see a good one, I will link his video down below. Go watch that one to get an idea of what he's looking for, because my video is not going to be that. While you're there, check out his channel. He's got a really cool channel too, which I will link his channel down below for that matter. Now, alright, I might get sidetracked here, but we're going to try and move through. I couldn't really think of anything good, and what kept coming to my mind was when I had a computer network set up in my spare bedroom at my old house. I bought my first computer, I think, in 1998, and it was like a Packard Bell 800 something with a Cyrix M2 300 megahertz processor, and I think 16 megs of RAM, and a crappy onboard video card. But that was my very first computer. And then a few years later, I don't even think it was a few years later, it was like a year later, I built my own computer. Maybe, yeah, it was about a year later. I built my own computer. While I had that Packard Bell computer, I did a bunch of research and taught myself how to put computers together, which is not terribly difficult. But yeah, I built my first computer, and that one was an AMD K6-2, 400 megahertz, which I found out how to overclock to 550 megahertz, which was blazingly fast back then. I had the fastest computer of anybody I knew, and I think I upgraded it to, oh crap, I think I upgraded to 64 megs of RAM. So yeah, it was super fast. And I had a, oh, what was it? It was an 8 megabyte Creative Labs video card. And what was the video card? It was a 3D card. I can't remember if it was an NVIDIA card. It had to have been an NVIDIA card back then. Would it have been an NVIDIA? No, it wouldn't have been NVIDIA. I don't know. Doesn't matter. So anyway, and then I did this every year or two where I would upgrade my computer or build a whole new computer. And a couple of people gave me their old computers. And what I did is I took them all, and God, it took 3 minutes to get to this point. Took them all and threw them in my spare bedroom and networked them together. And I think I had 6 of them. And occasionally people would bring over their computers and we would network those too. But this would be myself, my friends Eldon and Court, which I talk about on this channel all the time. And let's see, my youngest brother, Andy. My friend Nathan, who I've spoken about a few times on here. And my nephews, Cody, which is the one that I've mentioned before, borrowed all my Dreamcast games and never returned them. I'll never see them again. And my nephew Jacob would get together and we would play games, and occasionally some other people would come over. The games we would play would be games like StarCraft, Brood War. I think we played Command & Conquer once or twice. We would play games like Star Wars Force Commander, which is a real-time strategy game with sort of a 3D type of view, which was new back then. You could actually adjust the view on it. Galactic Battlegrounds, X-Wing versus TIE Fighter, although not this one so much. But we did play a ton of X-Wing Alliance. Really fun game, and this is the one that I'm going to tell my story about here in a minute. And then we would play a lot of games like Dark Forces, which later became the Jedi Knight series. And I think the most recent one I had was Jedi Outcast. I know they've got Jedi Academy, but I never really played it. Great games. Essentially first-person shooters from the point of a Jedi. Pretty cool. And then there was a Star Trek game we played. Star Trek Armada and Armada 2, which was a real-time strategy game. And while I'm on Star Trek Armada, quick story. basically, it's a real-time strategy where you fly these spaceships and you have star bases and stuff like that, and for lack of a better term, the game map that you would use was space, and there was an option where you would have to travel through a wormhole to go to another part of space. So you would have 2 maps for the most part. And, there would usually be 4 or 5, or once in a while 6 of us playing this game, although it was usually only like 3 or 4. And most everybody would build their I don't know, sector of space on the one map. But my friend Cortland always wanted to have a map where there was a wormhole that you'd have to go through to get to this other part of space. And he would always want to build on that other side of the wormhole. And what he would do is he would mine the wormhole. And he would just spend tons of money on mining the wormhole so that anybody that came through would be instantly vaporized by these mines. And what he would do is he would sit there and build up his defenses and wait for everybody else to destroy themselves, because you wouldn't want to go through to fight him, because if you did, you would get destroyed. And you know what? He's like this in games like Risk too, where he tries to get into the position that's the hardest to get to, and then he waits for everybody else to kill themselves, which I suppose is a good strategy. But anyway, and it would be no fun. I mean, because he would refuse to come through. He would occasionally send like one ship through the wormhole and fiddle with your outer defenses, but that would be it. And nobody ever wanted to play with him. And yeah, that's really all I wanted to say about that. I just wanted to call Court a dick for doing that. Thanks a lot. That's why nobody ever wants to play games with you, Court. Because you're no fun. You make it so that you're going to be the one that wins, and nobody wants to play with you because you will sit there. We will all be ready to go, and you will sit there and refuse to come through and fight us on the other side of the wormhole. And we know that if we go through, it's instant death. And we tried a few times ganging up on him and sending just hordes of ships through, but those stupid little mines would destroy you, and anything that got through, he would then decimate. And he would refuse to come through on your side. So you would just be in a permanent stalemate, and that's no fun. So, screw you. Now, on to the main story here. X-Wing Alliance was probably the one that we played the most. We all like flight simulator games, and this is an excellent game because you can play multiplayer co-op where, well, a couple different kinds of multiplayer co-op, but you can play multiplayer co-op against the computer, and we frequently did that where we'd have 6 or 8 people, and we would fly up against a Superstar Destroyer. And believe it or not, even on easy, flying up against a Superstar Destroyer with a full complement of TIE fighters is very difficult. That was fun. And then you could play multiplayer free-for-all or multiplayer teams, and you could actually set the teams up. So you'd have red team, blue team, whatever. And you could have multiple teams, so you could have more than just 2 teams. Now, my youngest brother Andy and I were the 2 best players by a pretty long shot. We were significantly better than everybody else. Now, the problem with that is he was also significantly better than me. So frequently, it would end up where we were the last 2 people there, and we would have to fight against one another because we were always on opposite teams because we were the 2 best players. And it would suck because he would just, not only was he good, but he was good and he was able to rub it in and make it stick. He would fly in just a plain Jane TIE Fighter. And for those of you that are not familiar with the game, TIE Fighter has 2 lasers, no shields, no missiles of any kind, and essentially you hit it twice and it's toast. And I could not beat him. I would fly the A-Wing, generally was my vehicle of choice, because it was actually faster than the TIE Fighter if you dumped everything into engines. But it still had shields. It had proton torpedoes. Didn't have an ion cannon. It's been so long since I played it, I can't remember. And then you had decoys, where if somebody launched missiles at you, you would shoot the decoys and it would destroy the missiles. Or torpedoes. And I could never beat the kid. I couldn't even get 2 shots at him. I would occasionally get 1 shot on him, but I could never get 2. And he would always be saying, ha ha ha, and making fun of me because he was beating me. And it was just very demeaning. So what I would do is during the week when nobody was at my house, I would look for ways to beat him. And I would fly against wave after wave after wave of TIE Fighter looking for a weakness that I could exploit. And there were tons of weaknesses that I could exploit against TIE Fighters. I just couldn't exploit them against him, and it was maddening. Then one day I was playing, and by complete accident, I discovered that you could use the decoys. And what the decoys were was essentially little missiles that if somebody launches a missile at you, you launch your decoy, and it would home in on the missile and destroy it. What I discovered one day is if you launch the decoy, it will go after the closest enemy fighter next to you if there's no missile to hit. So I then did a little experiment, and turns out you only need 2 decoys to destroy a TIE fighter. And I, of course, the following weekend, goaded him into playing. And I'm pretty sure that we put money on it, or we bet something. Well, he didn't have money because he had no money. But I'm pretty sure we bet something on. I don't remember. That's really secondary, because all that matters to me is the feeling of accomplishment when I beat him. So this is the story that I just took 10 minutes to get to, almost 11 minutes to get to. We are playing, and I let him get behind me really quick. I put up a show of running from him and trying to hit him for a few minutes, but then I let him get in behind me really quick, and he could smell blood. And he's slowly getting up, and it's just like, I don't know how. He was able to lock on it, just like, boom, 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 boom. I could hear nothing but his laser blast hitting my shields, and he quickly goes through my rear shields, and I shunted the front shields to the rear, and he's getting through those, and I'm letting him slowly creep closer and closer and closer to where he's within 2/10 of a click, which is very close in this game. Might even been closer than that, I don't remember. But he's within 2/10 of a click, and I hear that triumphant ha-ha as he thinks he's just about to get through my shields and destroy me. And at that instant, just as my shields fail, which would then show up on his screen, I launched 4 decoys. And he was so close, it was almost instantaneous. I destroyed him. And there was like this instant of perfect silence because he was shocked that he lost. And then the next thing I hear is him shoving the joystick and the keyboard out away from him, standing up, and immediately cursing me, saying that I had to find a way to cheat. Which, of course, I didn't. And all I could do was laugh in his face while he's standing there fuming over top of me, and I thought it was hilarious. And I've never experienced that type of elation since. The idea that somebody has been able to completely dominate you at something for a very long period of time and finally tasting victory was awesome. That's my story. At one point, I beat my little brother at X-Wing Alliance. I know, I told you it wasn't very good. You waited 13 minutes to hear that story. Sucker. Check out Big Daddy Darth's channel. He's got a great channel. Check out the tag video. Links will be down below. Do a tag video response of your own. He's a cool guy.